Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kesharwani working with Indira Gandhi National Open University in the School of Management Studies. The topic which I am going to talk today is quite burgeoning in nature. That is more talking about the e-commerce. I think we have talked in our preceding sessions about computer application business. Then we have another session which was focused on the research methodology and statistical analysis. We are back again with a very innovative and very contemporary topic which focus on e-commerce. We know that the whole world is right now talking about e-commerce, and when we go more into the depth of e-commerce, we find out it is not just a commerce but something which talks about the process, which talks about the employability, which talks about the changing of mindset, and on the other hand talking more about the usage of technology. So this particular course is prior to going into the depth of this particular theme, I think the curtain raiser to e-commerce, we are here with a very innovative topic which is part of our BCom program, BCom CBCS program, and this is part of our 4-semester course and known as BCOS-184 e-commerce, and we are here with the curtain raiser to e-commerce. So prior to going into the depth of e-commerce, I just want to throw a light. This is a 4-credit the skill oriented course, and which focus on the imparting skills and talking more about the employability. And if we go more into the depth of this e-commerce, we find out that today word is more talking about the digitization, and we have seen that how the digitization had changed everything. It had revamped the whole process. And if we go more into the depth of, I think the way we have come out from the brick and mortar systems, and rather we can say the click and mortar system is now focusing more on how this e-commerce is going to change the pedagogy of business. On the other hand, change everything. So when we go more into the depth of e-commerce, I think it is not just a commerce. It's something which is over and above to that. So it's and when you talk about the commerce, it's not like that you are just talking about the exchange of commodity or buying the product which have a physical appearance. But when you go more into the depth, you will find out that in today we are more talking about e-learning, and we are talking about other ways of e-services or the governance, rather we can say the e-governance. So this is all comes under the ambit of e-commerce, because the wallet are going to involve, the governance is also quite contemporary with this thought-provoking thing. So when you talk more about e-commerce, one has to make it very clear that it's not just a commerce but something which is quite holistic in nature, quite talks more about the totality, and many things are imbibed together and taken a shape of a e-commerce. So while going through this discussion, the whole discussion, since the today discussion much focus on what exactly the e-commerce is, if you go into the backdrop, you will find out that the whole course is going to be bifurcated into 14 to 15 chapters, and each chapters have got certain utility, and when you go and explore these chapters, you will find out and you are able to acclimatize more about the e-commerce. So we will definitely throw a light on this e-commerce, and we know that as far as the today's learner is concerned, as far as the young generations are concerned, for them this e-commerce is not a new term. It's something which is part and parcel of their daily life. So how the things which are part and parcel of your daily life can serves you as far as the employment is concerned, as far as the skilling is concerned. So this whole the episode, this whole the way of learning is quite contemporary in nature. It's quite skill oriented, and it's going to emphasize more on how you're going to skill yourself, how you're going to get the employment. So this is all about the particular thing, and if you go more into the depth, you will find out that this e-commerce is nothing but a combination of the technology and behavior. And prior to going into the depth of this technology and the behavior, what the consumer behavior is, which we are going to talk about, we just want to throw a light on what exactly the internet is. Because if we go into the backdrop, you find out that internet is something which crosses the boundaries of one jurisdiction and connect with the other part of the world in a very, very faster mode, in a fraction of seconds. So the internet is the information highway or public network where e-commerce and various forms of communication take place. E-commerce takes place over the internet and refers as internet e-commerce, and this is the term which had given birth to electronic commerce, because E is nothing but the online thing, and there are certain abbreviations, there are certain synonyms which are linked with the e-commerce. It could be the m-commerce, and today word is more talking about the m-commerce because the commerce is moving through the smartphones, and there's a great role of mobile because the transaction which are taking place, there's a great usage of mobile devices. So any transaction, for as long as it is done using electronic communication, can be referred as e-commerce. So if you go into the backdrop, you will find out that consumer is changing with the change of time. There was a time when consumer was just restrict to the product, but right now you have observed that consumers have changed in a mindset in the consumers have changed in a big way, and it's all because the pull approach which we are talking about. So in marketing, we always believe in push approach and pull approach, and when we go more into the depth, we find out that push approach is more supplier centric, more focus on imposing a product or floating a product, whereas when you go more into the depth of this pull approach, you will find out that the customer centric model is going to be created. So when you talk about technology, it's not like that you talk about the technology, you talk about many things, and that is the reason when you go into the backdrop, you will find out that e-commerce is something which is over and above to that. It is something which more talks about how much faith the consumers have related to product with the company, with the aggregators. Either it could be the e-business portals, it could be the Flipkart, Amazon, or whatever could be. And right now, if you go into the backdrop, you will find out that majority, a lot of domains are there which are linked with e-commerce. So either talk about learning, so you will find out that the government portal is there, which we talk about the Swayam or MOOC or edX or Coursera. So on the other hand, if you want to have a food delivery, you have Zomato or Swiggy. And if you talk about the overall commerce, you will find out that Amazon, Flipkart, and other players are there. So this is something which is changing the mindset of the consumer. So behavior of the consumer is changing, and the company and the e-commerce portals which are giving better services, talking more about the refund policy, taking care about their wallet securities. So for them, the things are going to be changed. So anyway, while going into the depth of this particular thing, let's quickly throw a light on what exactly the data talks about, because we have seen our preceding sessions when we were talking more about the research methodology and statistical analysis. We have seen that data is very important, and here also in e-commerce, the data is very important because the data is something which is now a real time in nature, which is changing with the change of time. There was a time when data was just merely something which is quite static in nature, but right now the data is quite dynamic in nature. So when you talk more about the dynamism of the data, you will find out that e-commerce is something which is going to be benefited by that, because the taste about the consumers, what exactly the consumer wants with respect to product, how they are going to change their mindset when they are going to buy the new product, and how the new product is going to be going to cater to the particular class and creed. So that is where this e-commerce is very important vis-a-vis the statistical data which we are talking about. So if you talk about the 2021, I think Internet of Things is something which is there, and without internet, without technology, without the net, you are not going to do the e-commerce. So it's a basic ingredient which is very important content. So this gives the digital voice to people, process, and things to improve the consumer experience, enhance supply chain visibility, and expand revenue opportunities. And if you talk about the machine learning or the cognitive computing, I think analytics and predictive modeling had come up, where we visualize, where we analyze what could be the product looks like in future. So based on that, the consumers, based on that, the supplier used to revamp the product. So that is the reason the shelf life of the company is going to be deteriorated in a very faster mode. There was a time when shelf life was just 30, 40, 50 years, but right now you find out that a new product comes in a very faster mode. The smartphones which were used by the previous generations year back or 2 years back, it's become redundant. So this is where the things is going to be changed, and 2021 is coming up with a lot of changes, because we have come out from this pandemic approach, and we have come out from the different approach of doing the things. So that is where the automation is also coming up, and automation is for packing and shipping orders and inventory tracking, checking in stores. And it's when you talk about e-commerce, I have already talked about that it's not just merely a commerce, but talking more about the logistics, the refund policy, the faith, the and how much the wallet is safe when we put our the credit card or link our debit card or credit card with the company wallet. So that is where very important. So if you go into a backdrop, you will find out that this particular course is a 4-credit course. We have already thrown a light on that, and we are here with the curtain raiser to e-commerce. Rather, we can say this is an introductory part of the e-commerce. And if you go into the depth of this particular course, you will find out that this course is bifurcated into 5 blocks. The first block is more emphasized on the basics of e-commerce, like giving the learners a view about that what exactly the e-commerce is, like introduction to e-commerce, e-commerce business models, technology used in e-commerce, then electronic governance, then electronic payment system. So basics of e-commerce is more talking about introduction to e-commerce, e-commerce business models, technology used in e-commerce, and electronic governance. So while starting our discussion on one-to-one basis, we will definitely emphasize more on each chapters and try to find out that what exactly the commerce is and how the business model is changing with the e-commerce. Then we have technology used in e-commerce, then electronic governance is there. So I was talking about that it's not merely commerce, because the governance is also changing with the change of time, and we have seen that how the governance had changed, how our Aadhaar card or the PAN cards which was given by the government is now changing, and you have got access to deliberately change at your juncture, at your place. So a lot of changes is coming up, and governance is also improving with the help of that. So this is the first block which was focusing on the basics of e-commerce. Then you have electronic payment system, and then we will see how the wallets, how this e-banking, how this electronic payment is going to be changed and revamped with this new approach, and how we have come out from this the conventional money to this the plastic money which we usually call the credit card or debit card, and now we are more talking about the wallets, and the UPI is knocking a door, and other thing is there. So we will definitely throw a light on this part. And then the third block is more focusing on website development and hosting. And if you see this third block, it's talk about website development, electronic commerce software, then web server hardware and software. So and why we are talking more about it, because there's a great use of hardware which is facilitating the software to execute. So we will see that how the hardware is changing with the change of time, how the smartphones which was having the 4 GB or 6 GB RAM, now the preferable the RAM as far as executing the hardware is 8 GB or 12 GB. Then you have Cyber Security and Information Act, and then cyber security, if you are going to talk about, it's more talking about cyber security measures. IT Act 2000 is there. So now, since we have got a different version, the updated version of IT Act 2000, so we will talk that in a more contemporary mode also. Then block 5 is more focusing on online portal and app, and we have seen that how the e-commerce moved from shifting from e-commerce to m-commerce, and how this app-based business is coming up, and which was confined to the website base. So online shopping and e-tailing is there, then online services are there, then app-based e-commerce are there. So this particular course is going to give learners a glimpse about what exactly the commerce is, and how this commerce is useful for the learners as a layman, and how it is going to facilitate you when you are going to accomplish this particular program, that is BCom CBCS, and shift yourself into a market. So this is going to helpful to the as far as the employment is concerned. It's going to be helpful, and it is going to be useful for the grassroots entrepreneurs who are going to set up their own entity, or want to start a startup. So this course is more talking about how you're going to extract the venture capitalists or angel investors or crowdfunders. So this is also one of the ingredient of. So one side we are giving learners a glimpse about what exactly the course is all about, and on the other hand we try to give a flavor of that, so that they can execute this and try to apply and generate employment, or make their own entity. So anyway, I think we have thrown a light more about this particular aspect. Now we are more talking about the learning outcomes, and we are going to define the meaning and scope of e-business and e-commerce at the different elements, and we are going to summarize the main reasons for adoption of e-commerce and e-business and barriers that may restrict, because when you know the new concept comes, new philosophy comes, new thought comes, it's not like that it had certain advantages always. There are certain stumbling blocks, there are certain pitfalls which we are going to talk about, because if you are not going to critically evaluate your phenomena or the thought, definitely you will be in a deadbed. So recapitulation, how we are going to recapitulate, how we are going to revamp ourselves. So this course is also going to talk about that, and what are the barriers which are working as a stumbling blocks. We want to throw a light on that, and finally outline the ongoing business challenges, because when you talk about technology, I think I have already talked about the shelf life of the company, which is changing. So there is a big challenge, and the challenge is not to the individuals who are working as an employee or working as an entrepreneur or setting up their own entity. The challenge is for the company also, because the company who have massively invest on the product, definitely if they are not going to change themselves, they will be on the deathbeds. So that is the reason we have seen that in the past that the companies who have dominated the world market for another 3 decades, 4 decades, if you talk today in the present scenario, they stands no more. So the reason is very clear, that they have not accept the challenges, they have not changed themselves, they have not adapt the new thoughts. So when you talk about e-commerce, I think, or the e-business, or the contemporary e-commerce, we have to take into consideration that it is all about accepting the challenge. It's all about inviting the critics, and always recapitulate yourself. So if you are recapitulating, if the enterprise or the individuals or the people who are associated with e-commerce are having a feel of changing themselves, I think this is one of the way by which you can revamp yourself and know exactly the consumer wants, because there are certain products which were there in the past but right now does not exist. So, and new products are knocking a door. Either we talk about Alexa, or we talk about the AirPods. We have seen that this had changed the whole way of the things, and the way technology is changing. The voice recognition based products are coming up. So all those things have given new way to think about, because the consumers right now are so much busy with the varieties of activities that they want a product which could be quite conducive in nature, which can helpful them when they use it. So more or less that is the reason the things are coming up which could be quite friendly to the consumers. So anyway, if we talk more about the e-commerce thought, what electronic commerce is and how it is experiencing a second wave of growth with a new focus on profitability that need to be taken care. Why companies now concentrate on revenue models and the analysis of business process instead of business models. So what we have seen that this analysis of business process is coming up, and when you talk about and how economic forces have created a business environment. So the business environment need to be created. I think if we study the companies who have flourished in a very short span, if you take an example of Amazon, if you take an example of the Google, if you take an example of the other companies like the Apple was there, and if you find out frequently they come up with a new thought, with a new product, and people are fond of buying the product developed by these companies. The reason is very clear, that they always try to find out the taste about the consumers, and the taste is that the consumer is something which consumer is always want something which can make them towards the product. So the international nature of electronic commerce and the challenges that arise in engaging electronic commerce on a global scale that need to be taken care, and the company who develop a product, it's not like that you can confine yourself to the particular jurisdictions or for the particular class and creed. The product need to be developed for the world market, and that is the reason the Amazon is the company which was started by Jeff Bezos, and we have seen that how this company have flourished, and right now you find out that they have a the electronic presence in across the board, and across in every country you will find out that Amazon is now having their own portals, and they are taking care about the consumers based on the taste they require in their country. So that is all about the thing which is there. So if you talk about the introduction to e-commerce, what is e-commerce? I think this is the first unit which we are focusing on, and in the first unit you will find out we are going to talk more about what is e-commerce and why there is a need of e-commerce. So then we are going to talk about evolution of e-commerce, how e-commerce have come up. We have seen that if you talk about the commerce in a preceding manner, if you talk from a Paleolithic age or Neolithic age, we have seen that the barter trade was there. The commodity was replaced with the help of commodity. People bring 20 kgs of wheat and they get 10 kg of rice. So this was the way of replacing the product. So there is no impact of currency into it, and after a certain time you will find out that currency philosophy had been developed, and which was having a physical appearance. And then after a certain time you find out that banks have changed themselves, and then you find out the concept of plastic money come up, which is known as the credit card or debit card. So this is all about talking more about the credit card and debit card, and then you talk about the wallets are there. So how the phenomena had been changed. These wallets are quite linked with the e-commerce portals, where you can get certain cashbacks or other things. So we will definitely talk about, and then the B2B, B2C model is there, which we usually call the type of e-commerce, and then advantages and disadvantages of e-commerce are there. So this is all about the e-commerce, and we will definitely throw a light on this particular term in a forthcoming session. Since today's session was more focusing on what exactly the e-commerce is, so that was the reason we were much emphasized on how to talk more about the e-commerce, and in our coming sessions we are going to talk about that. So we have seen that if I am going to recapitulate in a very faster mode, I think e-commerce is all about everything which not only includes shopping, but more to that, it's about the caring customer, refund, faith, and other thing is there. So e-commerce is a transactional process where parties exchange, buy and sell goods and services or send information. So e-commerce started among business supply markets, and this is something which had been developed. So anyway, I think I'm going to wind up my session today, since I was just giving a glimpse about the e-commerce, and since we are also running short of time, so in our coming session we will start straightforwardly from the first chapter, which emphasizes more on the introduction to computer e-commerce, and then we will throw a light on the different ingredients which comes under the ambit of this introduction to e-commerce, and gradually we will move on to the various chapters which are linked to one another. So thank you, learners. I hope you have enjoyed this particular session, and since this course is quite burgeoning and skill oriented, I think it's going to be fruitful to the learners in a long-term mode, and it have a very great way if they are going to learn from this particular concept. So thank you very much.